So, how do we talk about things that are, well, just beyond words? Things like faith or meaning or the divine. It's a huge puzzle, one that thinkers have been wrestling with for centuries. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today, the incredible tools our minds use to get a handle on the intangible. Let's just kick things off with two images. Over on the left, you've got a stop sign. It's direct, it's a command, no confusion there. On the right, a cross. Now, both of these communicate something, right? But they do it in such different ways. One tells you exactly what to do. The other, man, it points to an entire universe of meaning. And that really gets us to the heart of the question. One's an instruction, the other's an experience. So what's the real difference? If we can get this distinction, it's like finding the key to unlock how we talk about our deepest, most important concerns. To get to the bottom of this, we're going to dive into the difference between signs and symbols. It's all part of our search for what philosophers call the ineffable. The stuff that's just too big or too profound to be squeezed into everyday words. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is a sign? The philosopher Augustine had a great way of putting it. He said a sign is something that beyond just what we see or hear makes something else pop into our minds. Its meaning is fixed, it's practical, you see smoke, you think fire, you see a green light, you think go. It's a really direct one-to-one thing. Now, to really crack the code on how signs work, we can use this simple little toolkit from the linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. He basically broke the sign down into two key parts, and this is where it gets super interesting. Okay, so first up, you've got the signifier. This is the physical thing itself, the form the sign takes that we can actually perceive. Think about the letters OPEN painted on a shop window. Those letters, that's the signifier. And that signifier points to something else, the signified. That's the concept, the idea that the signifier represents. It's that mental picture that gets triggered in your head when you see the signifier. So here's the key, right? The signifier, like the word open, and the signified, the idea that the shop is ready for business, they combine to create the complete sign. It's a really neat, functional, little package of meaning. And this whole system of signifiers and signified, it works perfectly for simple, everyday instructions. But what happens when we're trying to talk about ideas that are way, way bigger than just whether a shop is open? I mean, what happens when the concept you're trying to signify isn't a simple fact, but something like God or the divine, or what the theologian Paul Tillich famously called our ultimate concern? All of a sudden, that clean, simple model, well, it starts to fall apart. And this is where Tillich just hits the nail on the head. He argued that our ultimate concerns have to be expressed symbolically. Why? Because only symbolic language is powerful enough to even touch the ultimate. Simple science, they just don't cut it. And that brings us to the hero of our story, the symbol. Because a symbol, it works on a completely different level than a sign. It's a whole other ballgame. Okay, this right here is the absolute game changer. A sign just points to something else, remember? But a symbol participates in the reality it represents. It doesn't just stand for something, it actually unlocks new dimensions of that reality. And, as Tillich says, new dimensions of our own souls. Tillich actually gave us 6 key characteristics that explain why symbols are so powerful. For one, they point beyond themselves. But, and this is huge, they also participate in the very thing they're pointing to. They literally open up hidden levels of reality and of our own inner world. And what's really critical is that you can't just make up a symbol. It has to grow out of a group, out of a collective experience. And that means symbols are alive. They can grow and deepen in meaning, but they can also fade away and die if they stop connecting with people. I know this might sound a little abstract, so let's bring it down to earth and look at some symbols in action, where they really do become like windows into another reality. Think about sacraments in religious traditions. They're often described as symbols that literally cause what they signify. That's an amazing idea. For many Christians, for example, the bread and wine of the Eucharist don't just remind them of Christ's body and blood. Through the symbol, they become a real participation in that spiritual reality. The symbol makes the divine present. And you see the exact same kind of thinking with icons in Orthodox Christianity. They're not just beautiful paintings. They're called windows to heaven. The idea is that when you're looking at an icon, you're not just looking at wood and paint. You are having an encounter with the divine reality that it's pointing to. It's a two-way street. So really what this all points to are 2 fundamentally different ways of seeing the world. A purely secular view might look at the world and see a collection of things that are, just things. They are what they are, and that's it. Matter, objects, stuff. But a symbolic worldview, the kind that's at the core of most religions, sees a world that is just charged with meaning. It sees things that always point beyond themselves. A mountain isn't just a pile of rock. It can be a path to the divine. Water isn't just H2O. It's a symbol for purification, for new life. The whole world is speaking a deeper language. And this really brings us to the big takeaway. When we get how symbols work, we start to see that religious language is often a lot more like poetry or art than it is like a science textbook. Its goal isn't always to state dry, verifiable facts, but to express the deepest truths of what it means to be human. At the end of the day, that's what symbols are. They're bridges that we build. They connect our everyday, mundane world with the transcendent, with the ineffable. They are the essential, powerful language we have for engaging with the mysteries that are just too big for ordinary words. So let me just leave you with this question. Forget about organized religion for a second. What are the symbols that give your life meaning? Maybe it's a flag, or a wedding ring, or a piece of art that just speaks to you. When we start recognizing those personal symbols, we see that this whole quest for meaning, it's not just for philosophers or theologians. It's a fundamental part of what makes all of us human.